Welcome back. I don't know why I did that. But you've decided to compete in the tactical games or maybe the proving grounds, and you're trying to decide which one of those you should do. Well, I'm just about fresh off of my proving grounds competition where I placed 7th out of the 24 total in my division. I wanted to do a quick video that explains the differences between the two to help you come to an understanding of which you think you're better prepared for, or which one you'd like to compete in based on the differing requirements. Let's talk about the similarities between the two. Now, they're both going to be a two-gun competition with the added difficulty of a plate carrier. You're going to run, jump, carry stuff, shoot things, and you're going to have to navigate obstacles. Now, they each are going to have multiple divisions, and that includes intermediate level for the normies, an elite level for the absolute chads out there, and a master's level. There's an additional division in the tactical games, which we'll talk about when we get there. Now, they both also have a slick division, which essentially means that you don't have the same weight requirements for your plate carrier. Most people that run the slick division run things like chest rigs. From a competitive and a preparedness perspective, both of these are going to encapsulate a bit more of a realistic or holistic readiness test than your standard flat range or, like a chest day Monday, arm day Friday. Not really preparing you for having to employ your kit, which is why I compete in this stuff. That's where the similarities end, though. Let's start to talk about the differences. Now, we're going to go back and forth with 3 categories for each: fitness, shooting, and equipment. First, the tactical games, and how I would describe the tactical games overall. The tactical games is best described as CrossFit with guns, in my opinion. The proving grounds. I'd best describe the proving grounds as a 2-gun competition with lots of movement under load. And that's additional load than just your carrier. There's less of an emphasis on fitness and a little bit more of an emphasis on hitting targets. But we'll examine that a little bit deeper in a minute. Let's jump into the fitness category. From a fitness perspective in the tactical games, burpees are going to be a pretty regular presence, and there is more overall emphasis on the fitness aspect. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't just as much, and in some cases, more fitness in the proving grounds, but it's how they emphasize each of these different categories for me. Loads are mostly carried in the hand, and they're going to typically be over 100 pounds, but movement with those loads is minimal, and that's typically going to be around 25 to 50 meters. An example stage is this one. I had to do burpees over this approximately 100-pound fireman's carry handle, and then a movement with it for 25 yards to then engage a target at 100 yards with my rifle and 15 yards with my pistol. I had to rinse and then repeat that 3 times, switching hands with my handgun. I placed higher in my tactical games than I did in my proving grounds, having a little bit more time and emphasis on the fitness than the marksmanship. Don't let that fool you. I'm pretty well rounded, but I'm in better shape physically than I am ready for a USPSA match. The fitness aspect for the tactical games can be best prepared for by doing lots of farmer's carries and grip strength exercises. Cardio is never going to be a bad thing, though. Regardless of what type of competition you're preparing for, it's going to help you prepare your breathing so that you can place good, accurate shots on target. In the proving grounds, movement under load is much more emphasized and is going to be much more distanced, at least in my experience. You're still carrying those things, but it's less of an emphasis on the fitness aspect of carrying the thing than it is moving the thing through the stage to put rounds on target later. In the tactical games, we were doing farmer's carries just to tire you. In the proving grounds, we are moving a sandbag to and from, or a rock to and from the stage so that you can continue engaging targets. It's not just there to tire you out. It's tied to the scenario a little bit more. I found the movements to be a little bit further than I expected, actually, in the proving grounds. They took up multiple bays at the sawmill, whereas with the tactical games, I was really just moving in and around single bays. The fitness aspect in the proving grounds can probably be best prepared for by doing cardio under load. Think backpacks or ruck marching, ruck running, if you will. Also, general total body workouts. I did more moving over obstacles in this iteration of the proving grounds than I did in my tactical game skirmish. Let's move into shooting. This is going to be one of the biggest differentiators between the two. In the tactical games, you're prescribed a mag count and size for both weapons. An example of that is you'll be told you need 3 mags of 2 rounds or 2 mags of 6 rounds, specific to each stage. If you miss in one of those hits, keeping in mind that you're already gassed and you're already tired and you will miss shots, those misses are going to count against you. There are no follow-up shots. The tactical game shooting can best be prepared for by knowing exactly what your holds are for various known distances and being able to get to them quickly under duress, because again, you won't get follow-up shots. Shooting in the Proving Grounds is actually quite a bit different with how they prepare you for it. In the Proving Grounds, there are no specific ammo and magazine requirements. You're going to be given an idea in the stage brief of how many targets you'll need to hit, and you bring what you think you need. Here's a video of me having a mag malfunction. I only brought 2 mags onto this lane, and I needed one of my full ones that was sitting with the rest of my kit off the lane. I ended up having to drop a round into the chamber to hit the target and stop the clock, and I lost 30 seconds here. Now that 30 seconds would have probably placed me a little bit closer to the top 5. Again, I placed 7th. I could have also easily taken the miss penalty, which would have only been a 10-second. I found that a 3-to-1 round to target ratio was pretty good. You'll miss some shots, but you aren't going to be penalized for follow-ups. Again, you're firing under duress. You're tired. So if there are 5 total rifle targets, I'd take 15 rounds to hit, with some exceptions for longer distances where I'd put that ratio, just to really be safe, to about 5-to-1. For the really long distance stuff, all the way out to 400 plus yards, I was bringing full complement of 5 magazines. It's better to have that ammo and not need it than need it and not have it. The weight difference between it is going to be negligible. Proving Grounds marksmanship requirements are best prepared for by just knowing where you should be hitting. Of course, first shot hits are desired, but you're not always going to get them. Put more rounds at various distances, both known and unknown in your training. Spend a little bit less time on precision one-taps. More time on just hitting and having rounds through your weapons. Equipment. Equipment is another area where they differentiate quite a bit. The tactical games has very specific requirements for how you set up your rifle and pistol. As an example, you can't run a pistol dot in the intermediate or elite divisions, but you can in the tactical division. The tactical division is kind of an amalgamation of the intermediate division's fitness requirements with the added benefit of being able to use a more modern dot optic. As another specific requirement, you can only have 1 optic on your rifle. You can't have both an LPVO and a top or side mounted dot. I see a lot more people running HHS, like an HHS 5 with a 5x magnifier on the G45, along with an EXPS 3-4. That's a setup that I have here at home, and if I do compete in the tactical games again, I'd probably run that one. Equipment in the Proving Grounds is quite a bit different. They don't care how you set up your rifle and pistol. You run it the way you have it, whether you have a top dot, only irons, a pistol optic, a cannon dot, whatever you want for any division that you want. The similarity between the two is that they have the same plate carrier requirements. Overall, I'm a little bit more appreciative of the Proving Grounds structure. Proving Grounds is a bit more representative of reality, and it's less focused on the regimented requirements of a marksmanship competition. Marksmanship competitions have to have standards, which levels the playing field and exposes the best shooter. Proving Grounds does have standards, but they understand that the test of the competition is more about testing both the shooter and the kit. You're testing how the shooter has their kit set up as an enabler. It's more than just the shooter, and I like that very much. I'll be sticking with the Proving Grounds from here forward since it kind of meets my personal philosophy of using my, quote, fighting kit to train and compete in, so that I understand what works and what doesn't. I don't know that I'll ever place really high in it though, especially given that I don't set up my kit for competition. You'll still see people running 3-gun belts, 3-gun plate carriers, or weighted vests, I should say. I could game it a little bit more, but I'm here to test myself against my expectations of myself, not necessarily against others. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the comparison between the two. If you have thoughts or if you compete in either the tactical games or the Proving Grounds, I'd love to hear what those are. And I've really only got 2 of these under my belt, and I'm looking forward to competing in the future, and I hope to see some of you guys there. Do me a favor though, hit subscribe on the channel. This is a new channel for me. I don't put a whole lot of content here given my work on Funker 530, but when I do, I try and apply as much effort into it as I can. I appreciate you very much. We'll catch you next time, and hopefully we'll see you out there.